Since Hurricane Katrina, many youth have been concerned about the state of New Orleans schools. Students came back after Katrina with fresh eyes. They were aware of what other districts looked like and felt like they deserved more. The Raise Your Hand campaign began in 2010 when Vietnamese and African American youth came together to talk about the educational injustices they experienced every day in New Orleans public schools. Some spoke of schools that did not allow students to take home their textbooks. Others reflected on the lack of college preparatory coursework like AP classes. Still, other students shared stories of counselors who could never be found in their offices, bathrooms that were too dirty to use, and lunches that were unhealthy and inedible. As the list of student issues grew, the group realized it needed to create a program to amplify student voices and create student power. For all the fanfare around New Orleans education reform, young people had a different story to share, as well as their own ideas for improving schools. Governance and management changes at the top were not translating into improved conditions for many of the students at the bottom, especially low-income students of color. Through youth participatory research, grassroots leadership development, and policy-centered youth organizing, the Raise Your Hand campaign seeks to drive system-level changes that expand educational opportunities for economically and racially marginalized students. Just as students raise their hands to ask questions in school, youth are now raising their hands to ask questions of officials and policymakers, and to demand accountability for many of the systematic deficiencies that continue to limit their academic potential. From June 2010 through June 2011, our group of student researchers and adult allies launched their first major project, a student-led research initiative to evaluate 6 New Orleans public high schools. Using both qualitative and quantitative research methods, youth recorded over 50 hours of testimony through peer-to-peer interviews and administered their very own survey to over 450 students. This research project represents the most extensive youth-led, student-centered evaluation of New Orleans public high schools since Hurricane Katrina. Once the surveys were collected, our adult allies compiled the data and created a report highlighting 12 issue areas, all from the student perspectives. From student support services and teacher effectiveness to the quality of food and transportation, students identified major concerns in their evaluations. In September 2011, we released this report to the public through a press conference where our youth leaders spoke about their personal experiences and shared some of the key statistics from the surveys. The media reported several big stories on our group's report, including articles in the Times-Picayune, Good Magazine, The Lens, and Education Weekly. Our youth research team was also invited to present their results at the American Education Research Association Conference, as well as the Association for Asian American Studies Conference. In the past several months, we have begun to see real changes happening in the schools as a result of our efforts. After a series of meetings between our youth organizers and Recovery School District officials, the school district agreed to hire Spanish and Vietnamese interpreters at the district's parent centers, adopting one of our most critical recommendations. In addition, the RSD has agreed to partner with us on implementing student evaluations of schools district-wide and to publish data from these evaluations in a guide that will be available to all families. Beginning in the spring of 2012, this initiative will go a long way towards institutionalizing student voice and ensuring that schools are accountable to students' needs and desires. As we move forward with the Raise Your Hand campaign work, we continue to educate, organize, and develop bottom-up leadership, empowering youth to advocate for their own visions of educational justice. The Raise Your Hand campaign is about young people organizing themselves, articulating their own agenda for educational change, and building the power necessary to make system-wide impacts.